Teenagers, a mole, a zombie, nom-noms. And that's it. We're done with the first episode. Kyle, play the outro.
Beep, 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 beep. I don't know. We haven't come up with a theme yet, so we gotta just sort of roll with the punches. Get
On the bright
drums.
side, we got done with episode 7 awfully quickly because nothing happens in episode 7. Oh, by the way, if you have no idea what's going on, we're doing 2 episodes of The Last of Us because Dev is fat. Mostly.
Yes. Round, tubular, if you will.
7 and 8. And 7 is just pointless. It is another completely wasted episode in a show that could not afford to waste 1 episode, much less 2.
Yeah. Oh, God. It can be summed up as, anyone remember The Last of Us DLC? Most people probably don't because it wasn't really good. Yeah, it's just a flashback of that. It's completely unnecessary.
Especially considering it starts also with showing Joel's like, I have a stab wound, Ellie, please help me. I'll go reminisce about that one lesbian relationship I'll have for an hour in the corner. Ellie!
I've decided to save you because I remembered my lesbian friend, and somehow my lesbian friend reminds me of you, or you remind me of her. I'm not quite sure where this is going or what the writers are doing. I don't know if the writers know either, but that's where we are.
It was dumb. It wasn't very interesting. It was certainly not worth an hour's worth of film. And that's about all I have to say about it, frankly. Like, it didn't deserve to... God, again, this is a show that already couldn't afford the Bill and Ted romance. It already needed to spend more time on that village that broke away from Fedra. And now, in episode 8, we're introduced to this crazy religious community because, it's the apocalypse. Every single person who's religious will have gone bonkers by now, apparently. That's just the rule.
Yep, that is a rule in apocalypse movies.
Yep, that's just what happens. And it's all seriously undercooked. Ba-dum-tish. So is Bob, by the way.
Oh, yeah, there's cannibals, and they chop people up. The show doesn't even do it very subtle either. Like, they're cannibals pretty much right off the bat.
Like, there's no subtlety. The very first scene shot with the preacher, it has this layer of malicious energy as the room goes silent because the girl is crying, and Padre just turns to her like... stares at her with his ice blue soulless eyes. Child, do not cry. They're obviously evil. Like, from the word go, they're evil.
Yep. And then they show the cooking scene where there's like this meat and it looks very like messy and gross and slimy.
And they stare at each other like, what's this? Venison. Like, oh.
There's like a
venison.
long pause and they're like, yeah, we know it's people. But like the show hammers that home again when you finally see like an ear on the kitchen floor.
No,
like...
it hammers it home like... Okay, so it's when they deliver the food, there's like, venison, that's one time. Then there's the ear on the floor, that's twice. There's there's when they actually say like, yeah, it's people, that's 3 times. And then there's the eating scene where they're all eating the food, and it's the slurp like, oh.
Yeah, the messy eating scenes. Where it zooms in the food, and the food's like looks way too raw and undercooked because even though they're eating people, they just don't cook anymore. They've given up on that.
Yeah. It's the Denethor eating scene again, and we're like, I wonder if Denethor's a good guy. He eats a baby tomato. Oh, no.
The tomato just splurts everywhere, and it's like...
Oh, no, he's definitely evil.
It was the one scene in, like, Return of the King that, like, I was like, I hate that scene. It's like snapping the chicken and, like, eating the meat as, Faramir's charging to die.
But they telegraph the whole cannibalism thing like 5 times. They even straight up tell you, like, God, like they desperately needed another episode to at least try to make you think that this wasn't a batshit insane cult of cannibalist Christians. And there was one thing. The worst thing too is, so this guy, this priest, has clearly developed a bit of an ethical ethos of his own, right? Because he found God after the apocalypse, and God was like, violence good, also sex with children.
Yeah, weird, but okay. He also is into rape too, by the way. He likes it when there's violence.
Literally,
no
like
fear
he's
in
on top
love.
of Ellie. Ellie is fighting. He's like, you should know by now, the resistance only makes me harder.
Yeah, basically
Okay.
he literally says that. It's like, there is no fear in love. As he's like undoing his belt, and it's like, dude, come on, stop.
Like, it's too much. Like, the bad guy tells you, like, on 17 occasions, hey, did you know I'm a little bit of a douchebag? Yeah.
I am like the worst human being ever, while also pretending to be nice. And the problem with this whole trope too is, again, the flashback episode. We didn't have time to build up this character. This character was sort of just dumped into our lap, and they immediately have to go to the bat like evil, 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 evil. And like it's just straight where they go.
Yes, they have no time to waste on subtlety here, so it is just slapping you over the face of the manuscript again and again and again. Like, do you get it? He's a bad guy.
Yeah, we get it. Show. Now shut the fuck up. Oh, that... Yeah. I mean, to be fair, this episode is infinitely more interesting. That's why we're focusing on that and not the previous one, because the other one's just boring.
Yes,
Nothing
at least this one had
happens.
action and stuff.
Yeah, the violence and the action scenes themselves were pretty violent, and it was, more or less entertaining. Besides the, whole villain being just a complete wet fart.
Yep. It's also the issue that it completely skips the healing of Pablo.
Joel, but yeah.
Pablo. But yeah, it's because he's got stabbed in the bat with a bat.
Well, a broken up bat, but stabbed in the side and on the side of his chest.
Yes, and supposedly Ellie's then supposed to carefully heal him back. This is a bonding moment. She goes out and scavenges, she finds him food, she builds a little fire next to him, except none of that happens. That's what should have happened. It should have been at least 10 minutes of Ellie just fuzzing over him and figuring out how to do things for herself. Like figuring out how to skin the deer, figuring out how to find food, figuring out how to build the fire, etc., to try and keep Pablo alive. But they have to skip that too because they don't have enough time.
Yep, they waste it with a flashback episode again to show a story element that doesn't matter in the main story. Like, if you haven't played the DLC, I cannot stress how you just don't need it. It doesn't add anything to the context of the story of the video game and what you need to know. They wasted time showing us a DLC episode for no reason. There was no payoff. Because what happens at the end of that episode? It jumps back into, I'm gonna stay and help heal him. Instead of being ambiguous and leave.
Okay, so Pablo goes I'm dying, I've got sepsis and clear infection, my open wound is oozing pus, but Ellie's in danger, da, 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 da. And he kills an entire village.
Yep.
Literally, he kills the entire village.
That's what's implied by the show. We're not making this stuff up either. He kills everyone. The women, the children, there was no one spared.
The old people.
The old people.
Because there was a whole community here, and their community hall is set on fire by Pablo's rampage, and nobody shows up, so Pablo must have dispatched all of them already.
Yep, killed them. Like the little child that was trying to crawl away. He's like, nope, you're not my daughter.
Like, Pablo, no. Yes,
Pablo.
No. Father, stop hitting me. And then come Pablo's like, Savior, not today.
Not today.
Oh.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, the show seems to have absolutely fallen apart, in my opinion. If you're a purist, you're not gonna like this show. If you like The Last of Us at all and you want to see that in a show format, that's not really here. It's coming apart at the seams the further we go in, it seems.
They do recreate a lot of the shots, at least according to devs. That's cool. They're recreating a lot of the scenery and they're following the story, and they're kind of trying to channel a lot of the show in the boss fight against the rapist priest, for example. That's fine. But again, you wasted an entire hour on yet another pointless love story that goes nowhere because the opposite party's dead. Again, the Bill and Ted thing was wasted because we could have spent that time on the Fedra enclave that rose up against Fedra, and the whole drama going on there. And Episode 7 was a complete waste because we didn't get to focus on Joel and Ellie actually bonding and figuring out how to live. And I mean, as you mentioned, she was using the bow at that point in the story, now she's using a gun. This could be an excellent opportunity to see how she transitions into using the bow. Because this gun is huge, it's big, it's bulky, I can't hunt worth a shit with this. And so she finds a bow or makes a bow or whatever,
And she uses a bow. But unfortunately, they don't do that. They just sort of gloss over everything and focus on parts of the story that just really don't matter here.
Yeah.
And then everything else feels rushed.
Yes. Like, again, the show couldn't afford Bill and Ted, and they definitely couldn't afford episode 7. And now, they've got to cram in the entire finale in one episode. Not just the finale. They still need to survive winter. They still need to get back to Tommy. They still need to do the whole, like, oh god, we have to kill Ellie to extract the magic juice from her insides.
Even before then, they have to go to Salt Lake City, do like a battle. Then they have to like do that all over again. Like, there's so much that's going to be crammed into the next episode that it's going to probably be an absolute disaster if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Or they're just going to literally cut entire sections out. Or they're going to somehow like bait another season that like this is a multi-season series or something.
I don't know if they mention other seasons. I think all they said is that they're not going to do The Last of Us Part 2.
I wonder why. Oh, that's strange, isn't it?
But they might get another. They might just throw up their hands and go like, yeah, well, we don't have time. We're just going to bank on a second season.
Yeah. Like, even if they did a second season, now they have to, like, extend it. And so now it's going to be inflated with just pointless crap.
They'll screw up the other part, too. Like, again, this is what I said. This was the reason why I added in the big old asterisk during the Bill and Ted romance episode. I'm like, okay, this is entirely fine. In fact, this is a pretty good gay romance. So long as it doesn't detract from the rest of the story, this is okay. No, they clearly didn't have the time. They did not have the time for it at all, and now the story is suffering. And we get stupid shit. We get this big villain who's clearly built up to be a big old bad, and is just massively undercooked. We get the crazy lady from the previous QZ era, who was also supposed to be a big villain, also massively undercooked. And the whole Bill and Ellie, being together to try and figure out how to survive his seeping stomach wound, that skipped. No.
Yep. Like, just to stress how rushed the wounded section is that Arch is talking about. Like, he is unable to move, then he's able to, like, fight, and then all of a sudden Joel has taken out an entire squad of them, and is now, like, going on a murder vengeance rampage to get Ellie back. Like, and that's, like, 1 to 100 in terms of recovery, like, because they didn't have time.
He's not even conscious. Like, Ellie's like, Joel, wake up. And he's like, coma. He hasn't moved for days, weeks, maybe. God only knows. And the only treatment he's got is her jamming a syringe into his stomach twice to give him some penicillin. Like, yeah, he's not walking, much less fighting the entire village. Also, I want to point out, they when they found Ellie after the hunt, right? They said it was like a good couple hour round trip to the settlement. And that was after Ellie had been chasing the deer. So Pablo walked for hours in the snow with a seeping, bleeding gut wound.
Yep. He's fine.
Yeah,
see, it
which
turned
had
into a video
been
game
closed with like a dirty needle and some sewing thread.
Some sewing thread that I want to point out, they have a scene where she's like looking for it, by the way, and she like flips it onto this like dirty, unclean floor, and the needle's like bouncing around on the like, crust-filled floor, and I'm just thinking to myself like, yeah, that's not clean. That's not... You're gonna stitch up that wound and it's just gonna get infected instantly.
Again, the show just seems to not want to focus anything on its actual strength, which is the Joel and Ellie interactions. And the show is just like, no, we can't do that. Those are good. Heavens, no.
That would be bad. We need to focus on random pointless flashbacks and just waste every opportunity we possibly can to build up the characters we're trying to set up, because the one thing that this show is doing that the game doesn't do is just trying to establish these villains as something a little bit more than what the video game did, because the video game just sort of glossed over it because you don't really see their points of view, so to speak. But now they have an opportunity to show us their point of view, and they're just rushing over it. So it's not even well done. Like, it would be better spent that we never got their point of view to begin with, and we just follow Joel and Ellie.
Yes, because now you're teased that there's totally something there, but you don't get to see it. Like, it would have been better if they were just video game enemies then.
Yep, you might as well just cut to the chase and just follow the video game script instead.
Like, unironically, the further the show goes along, the less focus there is on Bill and Ellie.
Joel and Ellie. Gosh darn it, do you hate Joel that much? He's like, yeah, kinda.
Joel's a stupid name, okay?
It is. It's not a very common name. In fact, I'd never met a Joel in my entire life.
Like, I don't like it, and so we're gonna call him Bill or Pablo or Pedro or whatever. Something else.
Pedro will work. I think that sounds a little better. Or Pablo. That's funnier. But,
there we go. I just googled it. It's a Swedish name. Oh, no wonder I fucking hate it.
Your enemies.
Disgusting.
The Swedish were always enemies of the Sami, which is natural, for Arch to dislike.
Actually, the Swedes are friends of the Sami. That's the problem.
Oh no. Arch's secret lover. No, again. Oh goodness.
They didn't even do any, they did a couple, ambush scenes with Joel where he's like, haha, I snuck up on you. Because, the seeping gut wound of mine. Fuck, you could probably smell that. But it makes him real stealthy. And then he does a little torture sequence, and that's it. You could have had a shootout scene, Again, stop focusing on the villain. You can't build up anyway. Have a nice little running gun battle, See him shooting the children in the streets with the bolt-action rifle.
As he's, cursing, the tiny ones are so hard to hit.
Yep. You could have satisfying little sounds that come up here, with an enlisted, when he gets a headshot on a kid. It's like, ding.
Nice.
You zoom over to Joel's point of view. He racks the bolt with a little smile on his face, yeah, got that one good.
Oh, that one good. That one's not getting back up.
Goes on to the next one. The mother next to the child holding in her guts, well, she's just down, not dead. She could heal. Click, click.
It's just a video game, by the way, at this point. Especially after that healing sequence.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It was poorly planned out. And again, this is what's a problem too, because watching the Bill and Ted sequence, I was watching it, I was saying, okay, there's nothing overtly woke about it. They're not pushing an ideology here. They're not whining about the patriarchy. They're not complaining about, we were oppressed as gays. None of that. They didn't really push anything beyond it was a gay romance, which I'm fine with. But then they went out and said, oh yeah, we pushed that because, the right-wingers wouldn't like it. Okay, there you go. Then they do a second sequence like that with the Ellie and person with messy, dirty hair woman.
I can't even remember her name. She's just not a memorable character.
And so now they wasted 2 hours on stuff that has nothing to do with the show. And the show has suffered observably for it. This is the politics getting away of the story again. And even if it's toned down, because again, the little cutesy romance between Ellie and dirty hair woman, fine, cute little teenage romance thing, okay. In a show that was 12 episodes, I wouldn't probably care, but we've got 1 episode left, and there's just no way they're going to get it all done in that 1 episode. And if they get a second season, that second season is probably going to be bloated to all hell.
Yep, with just random filler. It's all over the board. It's not gonna... I just don't see this show sticking very well. Especially considering how it's been going. Because, it started off actually relatively strong and then just completely came unraveled pretty much
Let's see here.
Right away once they started to try to build up villains.
So, according to Google, this was announced hours ago, there will be a season 2. So yes, they have literally just run out of time on this one, and they're going to use episode 9 to just wrap shit up as quickly as possible and get it into a presentable state. And then they're going to move on to season 2, which will start filming this year.
Okay, wait, so they are intending to go with the season 2?
Yes. It's really, oh god, it feels like an atomic
cliffhanger.
Probably. It feels like an Atomic Heart situation all over again, where I finish the thing and I'm like, okay, now you're gonna sell me the second one, aren't you? Yep.
See, that's the problem. A story should be able to it should be tidied up really nicely. If you have a huge series like Stargate's up, where it's 10 seasons or whatever, having a season cliffhanger is fine, because at that point you're in it for the long game. But this is a short thing here. This is a little story that didn't need bloat and got bloat in weird areas, and now its pacing is all over the board.
I suspect this probably could have been done in a single season and better if with 2 more episodes to do it with, but such is life.
Like a proper miniseries style, yeah. We're just focused on the core of the story and don't do anything weird.
Oh well, at least I got to dig up the Denethor eating gif again, so it hasn't all been a waste.
That friggin' tomato.
That friggin' tomato. And there we are. Yeah, that's it, pretty much. The Last of Us Season 2 is really the only thing that's going to be a thing now. Episode 1's going to probably rush, probably end on the stupid cliffhanger with early capture or something, and derp. It kind of feels like a waste of time. Like, I have a low tolerance for things that just like, oh yeah, no, we're not going to wrap anything up. And almost the casual disdain as well. We're going to waste 2 hours because we don't feel like we really need to give you a coherent story either.
Yeah, let's have a flashback right when we have the characters doing something interesting, like Joel and Ellie going to
one of our main
find
characters
people.
is dying. Let's have a flashback.
It's like, surely we're more interested in one other aspect of the story than to procrastinate.
Now, what about that Mexican dude? Was he okay? Teenage romance. Shut up.
Teenage romance. Look at the romance. Isn't that cute?
And we need to focus on child sexuality for a bit.
Oh
Okay.
God, this is just weird. I hate when shit does that.
Also, the goddamn preacher who was okay. So he meets Ellie in the wood, and they fight over a deer. Well, they don't even fight, and he brings her back, and they capture her. And he's like, "Don't kill the girl." And she's, "I loved you. We can be together. You can be my wife, and we'll have a generation of children." Like, wow, you fell hard and quick, my boy. This was what he called a rushed romance arc.
The apocalypse made him a desperate man. Not only did he find God.
It feels so forced. He's suddenly like, "Oh, this little girl is my thing."
Yeah. It feels like, let's make this villain creepy and pedophilic for just
It's
like
okay. They're sitting there
points.
in the writing room. That shit. They eat people. That's pretty bad. Yeah, but I mean, they are starving. It's the middle of winter. Like,
It could be justified. Well, how about the
Yeah.
leader's a pedo? Oh, I got it. Good job, Bill.
there you go. oh, even better. Let's have him pull out his Winky and try and feed it to Ellie through the bars of her prison. Like, yeah, people really hate that.
Yeah, and then like get on top of her again and try to like, unzip his
struggle
pants.
more.
He's like, I like it when they struggle. It's like, okay, dude. Like, this is cringe.
He is the most over-the-top, please, I'm creepy villain I have seen in years. It's just...
I mean, they tried hard with him. They did a better job with this guy than they did with the fat chick.
That's true, but again...
The fat communist chick.
Ah, God, she too is like, she was just an ass, just an enormous ass, and I was thinking like, okay, could you justify this in some kind of backstory? Yeah, but we don't have time. And this guy's the exact opposite. It's like, I'm just evil. That's my personality. Like, literally, God told me violence was okay.
Yep, he says that, he's like, little ginger bro, you don't have a soul, so it don't matter what you do. It's like, okay, fair enough. Okay.
Hello, little ginger. I know you have a violent heart. That's okay. I made you to be this way.
You were always meant to be. Everything happens for a reason. That's
all of
why I
those
made the
jokes.
apocalypse.
All of those jokes about gingers not having a soul as a friend. They're all real.
They're all real. So whatever you do in this life doesn't matter. That's why I became a pedo. He just realized that nothing mattered. This is nihilistic.
Oh, it's just dumb. Right. No, we're wandering in circles around how idiotic this is, so I guess we'll wrap it up there with one last shot at person going, resistance only makes pee-pee harder. Have a good day.
Goodbye.